Welcome to Beyond the Numbers, the podcast where conversations about wealth go deeper. This isn't about flashy success or one-size-fits-all advice. It's about real people designing financial lives that align with who they are, what they value, and the legacies they're building. We bring together voices from business, finance, law, and leadership to talk about the moments that shape them and the strategies that sustain them. Here is your host, Chris Everett.
Welcome to my first podcast, Beyond the Numbers. You know, normally I ask all the questions, right? But today, Nick Uresin, my producer, is going to ask all the questions. So I hope you enjoy. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Chris. Love talking to you. You always make conversations fun. So with that, let's jump right into what your podcast is about. So tell us, what's it called and what you intend to cover on your podcast?
So Beyond the Numbers is all about who I am. Every time I talk to someone, I go well beyond the numbers. Digging into who someone really is what I do. And if I don't do that, then I don't know what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. I really need to know who you are. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about all the people that I will be talking to and the amazing story that I know that they have, I just cannot wait to share their lives with you. So I'm looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a different journey too, you know? I mean, sometimes it's a rough journey. Sometimes it's sort of kind of an easy journey, but there's always something to take away and learn.
So beyond the numbers, when you say numbers, are you referring to numbers like our age, or are you referring to numbers that we earn, numbers that, what you mean by numbers?
So when someone becomes one of my clients, they have to really open up and tell me everything in their life that has a dollar sign connected to it. Mm-hmm. Could be good, could be bad, could be ugly, as they say. But if I know all of that, then I know how to make progress for them. I know how to teach them how to really be empowered to get so much more than what they can see at this point. Mm-hmm. It's really miraculous when you have someone who's in your corner looking over what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you have, what you intend to do. And because of the experience that I have, I can see beyond the numbers. If you can imagine a circle, a very large circle, and if you'll pretend for me for a moment that that circle contains every piece of wisdom there is in the world to know, there is a small slice of that circle that represents what you and I know. I mean, really, in comparison, right?
Yeah.
There's a much larger slice that represents things that I am so clear that I don't know. Like, I don't know how to fly a plane. Mm-hmm. The rest of the circle, the vast majority of the circle, is what I don't even know that I don't even know. And so when we can help people see what they don't even know that they don't even know, breakthrough occurs. And it's just phenomenal. So that's when I get to see people relax in their chair and their shoulders fall down and they exhale and they're like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's so cool. So obviously for someone to take me on that journey with them, to really expose who they are, takes a lot of trust. And so I hold someone's heart very carefully when I ask for what I need to know.
So this reminds me of something that I love movies and TV shows, and recently we started watching, I should say rewatching, Breaking Bad. For those who are familiar with the show will know that in the early episodes there is a line when he's asked, "Why are you doing this?" And he says, "I'm in the empire building business." In other words, it's not for money. It's not for anything. He's building an empire because he's got diagnosed with lung cancer. He's got a baby on the way. He's a teacher that makes $46,000 a year. So at this point, he gets into this whole thing because he wants to leave an empire behind for his family. So when I hear you talk about learning people everything going on in their lives, and then they're working towards an end game, really, this is for all of us, really, with families. We are in the empire building business, right? So we're not just, it's not a job every day we go work 9 to 5 or whatever. It's we're building something to leave behind at the end of the day, right? So that those are the stories that you are focused on, my understanding. Am I
It's
right?
so very true. I mean, when you think about getting up and putting your feet on the floor that day, you take your first breath. There's only so much of that day left. What are you going to do with it? Right. And so I want to know who you are at such a very deep level so that I can see what money really means to you. What's it for? What do you plan to do with it? If you didn't have it, what would happen?
Hmm.
So money is just a tool, it's a resource, right? So I want to know how you intend to leverage that resource, utilize the resource to be more of who you are and what you were really meant to be.
Hmm. So this show is intended for individuals or businesses, or who is going to be the ideal person where you say, you got to tune into my podcast because you're going to pick up XYZ. So who is that ideal viewer or listener for you?
Yes.
Mhm.
So truly, I mean, you could be an individual, you could be maybe a high-end sales professional, a VP, or you're running your own business. Maybe you have a donut shop, or maybe you have a really big corporation. It doesn't matter because you put your pants on one leg at a time. And
Mhm.
so everyone has the same tools and the same resources inside of them to figure out where they want to go.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe you have more chips than the other guy. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's all about who you are and what you're really trying to do with what you have.
Mhm. So individuals who are really looking to pick up some wisdom about the best way to build their empire, so to speak, right?
Sure, sure. And you know what? Even a housewife would benefit from listening to this. Think about it. I mean, you're building a legacy in your children. And
Yeah.
sometimes we don't even realize that everything that we do instructs that legacy of what we expect from them, who we are, what they think they should be about.
Okay. So now that we know who's going to be tuning in, so tell us about what would be the benefits of tuning in. I understand stories, but I also know that you deliver a lot of wisdom. And what would those benefits be for tuning into the show?
Sure. Well, I think one of the first benefits is to find someone you can identify with, right?
Mm.
Someone that you can say, oh, that's like me, or that part of them is like me, and I can learn something today because how they shared their story. I think that's a big takeaway. Sometimes, if you could imagine a lever or a gear shift, sometimes we are not exactly in our right identity, if that makes any sense. And so there needs to be a little shift that takes place to get us in that right socket. And so by hearing, by listening, by reading, you can pick up information that just takes you closer to that place where you really belong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. There is one other thing that I think that when you said, you know, see someone you can identify with, a lot of inspiration comes from seeing those people who are similar to you, because
Right.
we all are wrapped up in our own challenges every day, right? So we get up in the morning, we do our stuff, and as yet our experience is only unique to us, but others are having them similar experience. So when you see somebody just like you talking about the kind of things that they have done, that's also a source of inspiration because you identify with the person.
Regardless if it's a positive story or a negative story,
Yes.
right? You can
Right.
always take away something. And I think that's really powerful. So the guests that I will have on the show will come from various backgrounds. They'll have success stories, they'll have really horrific stories that they were able to break through.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
really an
actually
important piece.
Yeah, a good segue to what I was going to ask next. Who are the kind of guests that you plan to have on the show?
Sure. So definitely have business owners on my show who have started from nothing and who really built up step by step, maybe had some setbacks and had to break through, maybe some that own lots of properties and lots of businesses, but they're looking to figure out really what are they going to leave behind them. They may have built up a mass, but they're not really sure how to leave the legacy.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be some people who are entrepreneurs that are finding their way, meaning they've had some lucky breaks, they've made good on them, and they've had some setbacks, but they are standing on a solid foundation of learning and they see that they can go up to the next place. Those people are very exciting to talk to as well. I also have people who have started small mom and pop businesses, who've expanded, who have figured out how to balance life with business, how to roll their family in so that they can actually pass that business on to the next generation. Because not every business owner does that successfully, right? And so to be able to see perhaps some patterns in the stories that you can pick and choose from to insert in your own understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's pretty much all of us in business trying to build a life and leave
Or
some.
maybe you don't have a business. Maybe you are working for a business and you're at a high C-suite level and you're doing some amazing things and really making a difference.
Yeah. I mean, it's true because it's a career path. Some of us, we are what we call in my business community, we are unemployable. We want to
Me
do
too.
so we just do our own thing and nobody tells us what to do. That's how it works for some, but for some others they want a clear career path and they take on huge responsibilities. In many cases they take on the things that you and I would never even want to come anywhere near.
That's right.
And yet the job has to be done so that they make it their career to tackle those things. So those people are also building a legacy, right? So pretty much anybody who's building a life is someone who can share their stories with you, right?
Yeah. And I think that because of the method that I use, I have very sticky clients. They know that I know them inside and out. They're not afraid to open up their financial kimono, if you will, to really help me understand what's going on. There have been some solid breakthroughs that have occurred from that. I can think of a story. Now, this person will not be a guest on my show, but can I tell you a story?
Oh, yeah.
So he was referred, he and his wife in their mid 50s. They were living high on the hog, very high on the hog, and making a lot of money too. But they weren't really saving. And so in their mid 50s, they looked around and they said, what do we have to show for all the work? Yes, we have a lot of tchotchkes, really good house, beautiful clothes, but we should probably rethink our strategy. So their friends refer them. He comes to me and he says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I go, that's okay. Let's talk about how you grew up. How did this happen that you embrace this? So we really went down the road of understanding where he came from. As it turned out, he grew up in sort of a small town, not a teeny town, but a small town. And his father was one of the wealthiest men in the town. His mother thought money was evil. So here's this kid, he grows up and he's conflicted his entire life, making money, giving it away, making money, spending it, because he's trying to please both. And he didn't stop and realize that that was the seed of what his parents put in him. We were able to break that off of him. And once he saw that and it was broken off, he was able to rethink everything that he was doing. And of course, his wife was very glad to see that because she was even more concerned than he was. You know, women tend to be more concerned about security than men anyway. So the entire fabric of his understanding flipped completely. And so now he's on a very different path, and they'll be fine.
Mhm.
And
Well,
another gentleman referred, hold on, who grew up in a house where they didn't have much money. And the reason this client was referred was because he was extremely unhappy and doesn't know what to do to get happy. He wanted happiness. He was in his mid 40s and he's like really irritated. I found out through much work to build trust that when he grew up as an 8-year-old, he was in the kitchen. His mom was preparing dinner after school. His dad comes home and he was broken. He sat down on the kitchen table and he said to his wife, "Please forgive me. I can't do it anymore. I cannot go back to that job again. It's impossible." Well, she tore him a new one. And he watched his mother tear his father a new one. His father left the kitchen, went out to the backyard where the shed was. His son followed him to the shed, and he sees his father curled up in a ball, crying so hard. And the lie that my client told himself was that you have to do anything. You have to do whatever it takes to make everything work, even if it means you're miserable and unhappy. Well, that's a lie. That's not true. So we helped him unhook from that. And now he's in a very good place. So it's those kinds of breakthroughs that I want to see from my clients, that I think that if they can have that, it changes everything for them. And it has.
so Chris, this is not anything to do with numbers. This is therapy, for God's sake. I mean, you're doing therapy. You sure? I mean, obviously, the financial outcomes that people end up with, that is just a byproduct of the real
Well,
health.
actually, the financial byproduct, is light years ahead of what it would have been
Yeah.
if I didn't know that. So knowing your client, really going beyond the numbers to the person, to the core, makes a huge difference. And that's why I love what I do. I don't know what else I would do besides this. As a matter of fact, I can't not do what I do, if that makes any sense.
Well, when you and I met for the first time, immediately you start telling me the stories, and I thought myself that, you podcast is the perfect platform for you to be sharing these. And so I'm glad that finally it's getting off the ground, and I'm sure that people tuning in will enjoy. Most of all, they will enjoy, obviously, what they will learn by listening to these stories is also valuable, but I think this is a lot of wisdom that you'll be sharing with a lot of people.
Well, I pray so. You know,
So
we do the numbers, but we go beyond the numbers.
yeah. I mean, numbers are just, I always say this, don't worry about the numbers. They are just a way to measure your performance. So focus on the performance, and the numbers will work themselves
That's
out.
right.
They just guide you if you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. So this applies to pretty much anything. So share with us some topics that you intend to cover other than the personal stories.
Sure. Well, retirement planning is a very, very big focus for my clientele. They always want to know, when can they retire? Do they have enough to retire? Some even want to know how they stack up with everybody else. I don't really care. None of that really matters. It's all about you and what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes just throwing money against the wall isn't good enough. You might have a hole in your bucket. So, for example, if you can imagine a bucket with holes in it, and that's your retirement plan, but if it's infested with holes that maybe are too much fees that are leaking out the holes, or the wrong allocation, or just, you're wrong thinking about it. Sometimes if you're working with an advisor that doesn't really understand the fundamentals as well as charting and the economy and everything related to the market that makes up where you should be leaning your ladder, in your portfolio. That could be a huge wealth leak. So we try to identify as many wealth leaks as we possibly can. So aside from retirement planning, maybe you're of a 40, 50-year-old and you're trying to put your children through college. Well, if you are not structured properly, according to the rules of college financial planning, that could be a huge wealth leak that ends up robbing your retirement from resources that you could have easily had you just known. Remember what I said before about that circle of all knowledge? It's getting people to understand what they don't even know that they don't even know about a given topic that can really help them move forward financially. I mean, maybe it's something as simple as, maybe they're overspending. I have had many people overspend, and then I had to find out why. Because if you know why, everything can change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's an insurance or a risk profile that could be wrong, or maybe their tax picture isn't correct, or maybe their estate planning documents are, just not seasoned properly. They're not correct, or they're too old. So there's just a lot of financial topics, and if you think about it, it's everything in your life that has a dollar sign connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I can see that there's real financial topics that ultimately facilitate that building an empire, building that legacy.
You
So,
have to.
yeah, I see that you're going to cover each and every one. So, Chris, what I want to do also is I want to get to know you a little bit. I want your audience also to get to know you a little bit. So, tell us who Chris Everett is. I know you're not that tennis player. So,
Aren't I cuter though? Come on.
you
I smell
definitely.
better. So when I was a kid, I thought I was going to become a singer in a rock and roll band. So I actually did that. I was going to be famous, rich. I was just going to be on the stage the whole time singing. So Lord has really given me a great voice. And sometimes I even write music.
Yeah,
So
really.
working with the left side of my brain, the right side of my brain is very easy for me to do.
Yeah.
You may find me in any given day. If I get tired of working the numbers, I'll go do something creative. So that's who I am at my core.
So, but tell us though, tell us where you grew up. And then my favorite question is think about as a kid, the very first thing that you can remember that resembles what you do today.
ah, hmm, that's a great question. I never thought about that. I was thinking the very first memory that I had was driving with my family. We were on vacation, and I'm old enough that back in the day we used to be able to sit in the back window of the car, you know, before they would pull you over and take you to jail for child abuse. And I remember thinking that there are so many people that just really needed to be loved. It just came over me. So that's a part of my core. Okay. Now, when I was a little bit older, I found myself in a play. And as I was in the play, I learned that, there were so many parts to pull off a good play, right? There's the people in the background, the people directing, obviously the actors, there's the music, the set, the screenplay, so many components. And so, like an engineer, I was looking at all those components and how they fit together, which really fits with what I do today. Little later on, I wanted to become a doctor. Same thing. It's all the engineering pieces that go together of being a doctor. So when I think about how I'm hardwired for engineers. I have a lot of engineers in my practice because I do take things apart. A lot of attorneys. We have a lot of business owners. So I'm not afraid of that. And I actually welcome it because it fits within my hardwiring, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. So, as far as what drove you to doing what you do today, where do you think that came from?
Well, I was a singer in a rock and roll band for a while.
Mm.
And I loved it. And I was very good at it. We worked 5 nights a week. We had a manager. We were out there. We were the Razaz band. And then as my kids got older, I'm like, you can't keep going to the bars. You got to do something else. Because my college education wasn't going to take me where I wanted it to go. Meaning, I got married before I finished college. So I am probably the most read person. Well, I'm one of the more well-read persons. Let's put it that way. Because for years, I thought I was less than because I didn't finish college. Well, that's also not true. I'm smart and I just take in a lot of information, but I don't have a bachelor's or a master's or any of that stuff. I just listen very well. So I call myself the CLO, the Chief Listening Officer, and that's how I get breakthrough. But to go further, I wanted to be a doctor. I left college instead and got married, became a singer in a rock and roll band. And then one night, my husband invites an insurance agent over to sell us life insurance. I thought, what? I'm not ready to die. We don't need life insurance. I was so clueless. I grilled that agent like a hot dog for a couple of nights. He came back for more. After the third night, we did buy a policy. He says, Chris, you really belong in this business. I said, oh, yeah? I went to one of his dog and pony shows where he tried to recruit me and have me become part of his staff. I actually ended up doing that, but not then. I talked myself out of it by the time I got home. But it stuck with me because I knew that most people really needed somebody to tell them the truth. And so I ended up doing that, did very well. They promoted me to manager. I was a terrible manager, came back down, went into, just being an agent later on, started my own business, several businesses, and I just love this. I actually sold a business. I had a health insurance practice for a while, sold that, did property and casualty, just stopped all that. So having the ability now to have touched all those different aspects of the money pieces of somebody's life gives me a clear understanding. As a matter of fact, when I decided to launch my own practice years ago, I brought some clients together and I said, look, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think? I really like you guys. I know you trust me. Just give me some guidance. And they said, Chris, don't give up your insurance practice. Don't give up your investment practice. You have to figure out how to keep both of those together because you know us so well. We don't want to have to go find another person to insert in that spot. We need you to be able to manage the whole thing because we trust you. We also know that if you get beyond your knitting, you're going to go find somebody to fill that spot. So, and that's the truth. Because my father used to say, Christine, you do it right or you don't do it at all.
Yeah, it's so true. It's the best feedback you can get from your clients. They know that if you leave them, then they're gonna have to find somebody else, and the kind of stuff that you're dealing with is sensitive, so they don't want that. So
absolutely,
yeah, that's great. So, Chris, give us the name of your podcast one more time, and how can people tune in? What are the platforms? And also give us your contact information. How can people reach you?
Sure. Well, we're all over the place and it's beyond the numbers. Phone number is 708-771-7777. You can certainly go to the website. There's a wealth of information there at everettwealthsolutions.com. And I look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, and your podcast will be available on all the podcast platforms from iTunes,
everything,
Spotify, as well as your YouTube channel. So
that's correct.
People will be able to tune in. Great. Thank you, Chris. I am looking forward to listening to the stories. I know that you're going to have a lot of fun talking to people. That I know for sure. And I'm sure people will be too.
Otherwise, why do it, right?
Exactly.
Enjoy. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. And this brings us to the end of this episode. I'll be wrapping up here, but Chris will pick up from the next episode onwards. Thank you for tuning in.
Beyond the Numbers podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.